Hi, this is Eddie Muller. I am back with Ann Hockens, Director of Communications for the Film Noir Foundation. Last time, our October Ask Eddie session ran a little long because Eddie just doesn't know when to shut up when he's answering these questions. So we're doing a addendum to the last episode where I promise, get through all the questions that were submitted for the October edition. Or is it the November edition? I can't even remember anymore, Ann. You got to keep.
We're still October.
We're still in October. That's right. It's not Halloween yet, so okay, we're ready to go.
Correct.
And yes, and I am, since I'm sitting in the same place and everything's the same. I decided I had to shake something up, so I'm actually wearing my glasses this time. So, which nobody ever sees me wearing my glasses, so this is maybe a special occasion for. Yeah. For those fans who have tuned in, you get to see Eddie wearing his glasses.
Yeah, a big day for everyone.
I just wanted to match you. And actually, our glasses seem very similar.
They're extremely similar, yeah. So this one is from Kristen in Seattle. In the last Ask Eddie, In a Lonely Place was mentioned as not having a crime involving the main characters. Can you talk more about the noir films like this? I'm thinking especially of Clash by Night, which contains no crime at all. What are other elements make it noir?
Crimes of the heart. It has crimes of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a very good point. I would say borderline. I mean, the crimes aren't like murder or anything like that, but Sweet Smell of Success is another film that, is considered a noir, but really has no crime in it per se. I mean, it more so than Clash by Night. There's more crime in it than Clash by Night. But I tend to like those films. I'm going to say I'm not a huge fan of Clash by Night. I think it's a little overwrought. But I really like the setting. I like the setting. I love the actors.
Yeah.
And I think it gets, instead of just being a drama, which is what it is.
Yeah.
It gets considered as a film noir because of Fritz Lang.
Yeah.
Because if Fritz Lang directed it, then it has to be noir. And when I got into this when I introduced the film on TCM, but off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of other ones that fit that. I mean, Sweet Smell of Success I mentioned, but
what about Ace in the Hole?
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I would say that's an example of that. I mean, it's so funny. That film, Kirk Douglas is so venal in that movie that you feel like he's the crime.
Yeah, exactly.
Although obviously he didn't bury Leo in the cave. I mean, he kept him there, but he didn't put him there. So it's interesting. I'm gonna think about this, and maybe as we're talking, other ones will come to mind. But okay, that's all I got. That's all I got for. What was our friend's name who submitted that question?
Kristen in Seattle.
Kristen. Okay, Kristen, that's a good one, and I'm going to think of other ones that fit that bill. There are melodramas. Those are the films that you have to look towards. Another example, like Clash by Night, is Daisy Kenyon, the Otto Preminger film, that very often gets classified as a noir, even though it's just a romantic melodrama, because it came in the middle of that run of great noir films that Otto Preminger made, and it looks very noirish, so people want to classify it as a noir, and it really isn't. But that's why that stuff happened, is because it was an artistic movement, and so a lot of people just want to bestow like honorary noir status on these films, either because they look so much like a noir, or they're made by people whose reputations are synonymous with noir.
Yeah, and Daisy Kenyon is a really good film, by the way. I actually really like that film. So
I love that movie.
Put a plug in for it. And with Clash by Night, I really do not like that film in a lot of ways. And I mean, and it's so funny because when I had managed a video store on 15th Video in Seattle, one of my employees insisted in putting it in the film noir section that we had, and I indulged him because he was a good employee, but I never liked it there. I do not consider it a film noir at all.
Yeah, I hear you. That's also one of those films that is now considered problematic because of how racist the Robert Ryan character is in that movie.
Yeah.
And it's in an offhanded way. It's not like the character he plays in Odds Against Tomorrow, which is just, that's the point of the movie, is that he's a full-on racist. That's the idea of the movie. But in this one, he's just so cavalier about his racism. And, you know, we're getting the word at TCM, like about if we want to issue more trigger warnings and things about stuff in the movies that are really off-putting to a modern audience. And I know that Clash by Night is going to be one of those films.
So the thing where he talks about wanting to stick pins in his ex-wife is okay?
No, I mean, just he's racist and misogynistic.
But his racism, which is part of his character, is not okay.
Of course. And I can't tell you how many women I know watch that movie and are just completely hot for Robert Ryan in that film. Yeah. Misogyny and racism aside. And, you know, there is some pretty sexy stuff in that movie when Stanwyck puts her hands under his t-shirt and with the nails, you know, that's pretty hot.
Yeah, that scene always gets to me because it also is Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Ryan, which has to be like the hottest couple ever. I mean, just together. Evidently, his wife
I think it's funny, we're getting off on Clash by Night now, but I do think that people really like that movie because of Stanwyck's character.
Oh yeah.
You know, what a you know, she's just a troubled, angst-ridden woman, or more like ennui than angst. Yeah. And it's a very modern character, you know, and and it's Stanwyck, you know, she's the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, she's incredible in it. And one thing I wish they kind of done in the film more, which I think would have been interesting, was I would have liked to see more of the relationship between her and her brother.
Yeah.
I think that would have made it sort of, I don't know, to me it would have been more interesting. And also, I also read that evidently Robert Ryan's wife was not happy about him working with Barbara Stanwyck.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Of all the women,
yeah.
Was, you know, yeah, out of all the women, you know, that was the one that she kind of had a problem with.
Well,
and I thought about it, and if it was my husband kissing Barbara Stanwyck, even if it was just for a movie, I don't think I would have liked that either.
She's an actress, though.
Yeah, I know. Do
you know that in the stage play, when the stage play happened, that Robert Ryan actually was in the stage production of Clash by Night, but he didn't play Earl. He played the Keith Andes character, the guy who was with Marilyn in the film. That was the role that Robert Ryan played on stage. It must have been 10 years or so before the movie got made. There you go. Okay. Okay. That wasn't the question. Kirsten's question was not about Clash by Night, but we turned it into a, old treatise on Clash by Night there. Okay.
Since neither of us really like the movie that much. Okay. This is from Harriet. Inspired by your well-reasoned analysis of the relationships in Gilda, I now ask you, what is the audience supposed to understand about Laura and Waldo Lydecker?
Oh, that's interesting. It's difficult to talk about gay characters in movies because, for some people, because I think they have a very definitive notion of how these characters are expected to behave or what their motivations are. I mean, I don't see any, it's not difficult for me to understand Waldo and Laura at all,
Yeah.
because very, very often these things are not about the sex. They're about the power dynamics in the relationship. Waldo clearly was enamored of Laura because she was this perfect being. And
Yeah.
he appreciated that about her and wanted to mold her into this perfect specimen, and it makes perfect sense to me. And then when she turns out to really just be a woman,
Hmm.
he can't deal with it, and I'm not going to say that I know a lot of people like that, but I certainly have seen relationships like that. And also just, the Gilda thing, I got interesting comments about that when
Yeah.
I showed it on TCM. And when you're doing an intro, you have a limited amount of time, and these are such hot button issues now for people that it's almost like certain words just don't work anymore, so like when I say, oh, these characters are clearly bisexual or something, it's like something happens in some people's heads when they hear that, and it's like, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to see George McCready and Glenn Ford in that way, And it's like, well, but you got to understand that relationships like this exist. And even if if you're more comfortable taking the sex out of it, just take the sex out of it. It's still a relationship. It's still a relationship based on the neediness of these characters. Balin Munson is a guy who just wants to collect and control and own people. And if it's a guy or if it's a woman, it doesn't matter to him. He's a power crazed, weird guy.
Yeah.
So very often these things are more complex than just like who's sleeping with who, I mean, that's not really the point of this. Anyway, and that's a good tease for, we have an article coming up in a future issue very soon of the Noir City magazine about gay characters in film noir. A really terrific writer, Randy Dotinga, has done this excellent, very well-researched piece all about how they got this stuff on screen when clearly it was opposed by the Production Code Administration. But it's all about the how everything is codified in these films, and how they got them past the production code, and just what audiences were supposed to make of it or not at the time. Anyway, so that's my take on that.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, it's not like grown-ups in the 40s and 50s didn't know that there were gay people. I mean, that was, a reality then just as much as it is now. So, I mean, I think it would be reasonable that people would understand when characters are supposed to be gay. And I think in the case of the characters in Gilda and Laura, I mean, those relationships, I mean, I feel like they're really about power. These were men who wanted to have someone that they molded an image that they wanted and to have control over. And when that got disrupted, then they, acted out really violently, actually, which is, not uncommon in abusive, controlling relationships. So my 2 cents.
Very good.
And this is from Lawrence. Oh no, Lawrence was the one who asked about the locket, which we talked about extensively in the previous one.
Yes, I remember you mentioned that I had touched on the locket before the question was even asked. It came up as an underrated film noir.
Yeah.
So, okay, Lawrence, I answered your question, so now you're just going to have to submit another one.
This one's from Thomas. Have you seen any of the Nordic Noise series, such as those broadcast on the MHC streaming network? And if you have, what do you think of them?
I have not seen them. I've read some of the Scandinavian noir. I've read more than I've actually watched. So I don't really have a good answer for that. I'm wondering if that question is also a recommendation, like, you know, these are really great, you should be watching them, or if this person may be saying, I really didn't like it. What do you think of it? I can't tell.
Yeah, he didn't express his own opinion. And also, it's really weird this question came up because I was talking to my mom and my brother last night, and they were watching TV series on that channel.
Huh.
Yes.
Interesting. I don't even know that channel. I mean, people would be shocked if they'd found out how little television I actually watch. I really do tend to read a lot more than I watch TV.
Yeah, I don't really watch that much television. If I have time to watch something, I try to watch a movie.
Yes, exactly. Or if it's a, you know, like I went off previously about Babylon Berlin and how much I love that. But honestly, the way we watch TV today, it's like a long movie, because I just binge watched Babylon Berlin. It's like a 28-hour movie.
No, I mean, I've done that with a couple of things as well on Netflix, and because the only thing I really watch weekly when it's airing is Better Call Saul, which I actually
I know your obsession with Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I actually watch it live. I mean, I don't even record it and watch it later. I literally
That's
watch
impressive. Does it have commercials?
Yeah.
I'm stupefied.
Yeah,
I'm totally stupefied. Then again, I watched Breaking Bad live, you know, when it was on, and it's like, and it always surprised me. That was the last show I watched that had commercials.
Yeah.
Because I won't watch narrative storytelling with commercials anymore. I just can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'll just wait till it's streaming or something and, you know, do that. You know, it took me, do you know that I watched the entirety, I'm going to make a confession to you, Ann. I watched the entirety of Breaking Bad and I never got Saul Goodman's name. I never understood that it was like, Saul Goodman. I feel so stupid. I'm like the guy who doesn't see the arrow in the FedEx sign.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what do you, hey, you know, I ran that on somebody who worked at FedEx the other day. So how long did you work here before you saw the arrow in the sign? And they were like, what arrow?
No, I did not notice it until you talked about the first time. I don't know why we were talking about this, but you talked about the first time that you saw it. And then I was like the same way. I didn't realize there was an arrow in the FedEx sign.
It's genius design. It's genius design. Okay, but we're not talking about FedEx. Why are we doing an ad for FedEx? Come on.
I don't know. And then, so Thomas had a second question. Is there any film you think is way overrated as noir?
I always get asked this question, and I'm not trying to dodge it, but to me, it's kind of pointless to answer the question, because I think the films that are overrated, it says more about the process whereby a film gets its reputation than it has anything to really do with the film itself. You know, I mean, what can you say? You know, if somebody told me and they said, you know what, I think Vertigo is the most overrated film ever, I wouldn't argue the point with them. It doesn't change my opinion of Vertigo one bit. I love the movie. I think the movie's absolutely fantastic. Is it possibly the most overrated movie of all time? Yeah, it may be, you know, because who cares, you know, really? I mean, there are so few films that are great that you can just, when the critical consensus is just this piling on and making it an absolute masterpiece and everything, it becomes a moot point at a certain time, you know? And my attitude is if the film is really good, the film's going to hold up and you're going to watch it, and audiences will always be fascinated by it, regardless of what the critical reputation is. You know?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's a disservice to the film, because then I think people's expectations can be very skewed. And then the other thing too is there's been some films where I saw them like on television, and I thought, kind of, I can't believe the big deal about this film. And then I saw them on the big screen, and it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is so great. And I know, like for me, like Barry Lyndon is a really underrated film, but the first time I saw it was in 70 millimeter at the Castro, and that was, I think it's his best film personally. But it's also something where I don't think you can watch that on a small screen.
No, it's absolutely pointless. I remember seeing that when it came out at the North Point Theater in San Francisco, you know, and it was like, holy cow. I mean, it's not really my kind of movie. I mean, I saw it when it came out. I was much, much younger.
Yeah.
But I would never watch Barry Lyndon on a screen at home, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of I mean, we're going to detour here a little bit, but this is another aspect of why this pandemic is such a tragedy, and why we need to come out of this is because films like that, or 2001, or, you know, War and Peace, you know, the Russian, these are things that have to be seen on big screens.
Yeah.
They just don't work on a small screen. So we really do have to get back in the theaters. Anyway, Thomas, I hope, I don't mean to be, you know, dodging the question. It's just that I find that I have seen this happen so often, where a film comes out and it gets a huge rush of critical praise. You know, it's like I've gone for several years now to the Telluride Film Festival, and it's like people creating that reputation, creating that buzz for a film instantaneously. Like, this is the first public screening of the movie.
Yeah.
And we have chosen this film. We're going to, and I can guarantee you, within the first week of that, I can already see the backlash building.
Mm-hmm.
Because then other writers are going to want something to say, and they're going to just take the contrary opinion. And you know what? The reality doesn't really set in until years later. It takes years for a film to like settle. And it's like, what is this film really? You know, does it stand on its own, separate from all of the critical hoo-ha and the buzz and awards season and all that kind of stuff? And you know, so we're talking about classic films, obviously. But I think the same thing always applied. That same, you know, zoom it up to the heights and then crash it down. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. You know, whatever. I like them all.
Yeah.
You know, a movie really has to do something offensive to me, which is be boring.
Yeah.
I mean, that boring. To be boring, or to not have a point of view, or to not care. Those are the movies that agitate me, and I just walk away from them. I don't even bother with them. Otherwise, it's like, well, that's interesting. You know, they tried to do this or that. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not going to be hugely critical, you know. A recent film, for example, that I saw at Telluride that I really didn't like was Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
I just really didn't like the movie, right? But I got what the Safdie brothers were doing. It was just not what I wanted right then. You know, it was just like too much. It was overkill for me. But I'm not going to say it's overrated or anything like that. It's like, if somebody loves it, they love it, you know, and that's good. Adam Sandler was great in the film, tremendous performance. But it was just, it just pounded my head a little too much. Anyway, okay, that was a sidetracking there. Let's get on.
Okay, so this is from Phil. Which actors, actresses of today would still be effective if you moved them back to the movies of 1947 or thereabouts? I see Tom Hanks as a modern day Jimmy Stewart. What other current actors or actresses would be similar to those from film noir's golden age?
Wow. That is a really good question.
Huh.
Boy, I see more women making that transition than guys. I
Yeah.
think I'm just a little harder on the guys, you know, because the men were a little studlier back then than they are now.
Yes, yes, they are.
Yeah. I think that, you know, I really like Annette Bening. I think Annette Bening could have made movies in the 30s and 40s. And, you know, she's so versatile, and she can do comedy and drama. And, you know, and she has a very, to me, she has a very 30s face. I have to think about this some more. I don't want to get bogged down. I've already been long-winded enough. But this is a really good question that I'm almost tempted to put this out to, like, you know, the audience and all the people who like, who do they think would work in these older movies? You know, it's funny because my buddy Joe Gores, when he, you know, he wrote the prequel to the Maltese Falcon.
Oh yeah, I read that.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers bought the rights to it, thinking they would do it as a film, and we all just kind of said, who the hell is going to play Sam Spade? I mean, who exists today that could do that? You know, tough to say. You know, one guy who I like is the guy who plays Bosch, Titus Welliver. I like that guy because he has a look about him that is pretty unique, but he's also, I hope Titus Welliver isn't listening to this, because don't take it the wrong way. He's also small.
Yeah.
Which all of those actors back in the 40s were small.
Yeah.
You know, Alan Ladd and George Raft and Humphrey Bogart and all, they were all really small guys. Small body, big head. And Titus Welliver reminds me of those guys because he has a tremendous presence, but he is not a big man.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you got two out of me: Titus Welliver and Annette Bening. Let's cast them in a movie together. Maybe they can play Sam Spade and Bridget O'Shaughnessy in a remake of the Maltese Falcon.
There you go. And I would throw in Michael Shannon to play heavies.
Oh,
I think Michael Shannon would be a great film noir heavy.
But you know what's interesting? I love Michael Shannon, and what's interesting about him is he seems like a thoroughly modern actor to me, though. I can't remember anybody that looked like him in movies back then. He's a modern, you know, but I'll tell you a person who doesn't even make movies anymore, who had real movie star quality and was in a movie with Michael Shannon that I dearly love called Bug, was Ashley Judd. Ashley Judd was like movie star. And I don't know why she just kind of, you know, she got out of the Dodge. I don't know why.
Yeah, and she has that very kind of classic look and presence. She's kind of like a modern Ava Gardner or something. You know, she kind of reminded me of that. Anyway. Okay. And this is, I think it's Drake. Can a Western such
Drake? The rapper Drake?
Not that Drake.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Can a Western such as Blood on the Moon or Ramrod be considered a film noir?
Yes. There, my shortest answer of the night. Yes, but only if they fall within the range of the original film noir movement. Because you're not going to see a Western from the 60s, you know, a film like The Professionals or The Wild Bunch or something like that is not a film noir. But Pursued, Blood on the Moon, as you say, Ramrod, I know I'm blanking. Day of the Outlaws is a film that I love very much, that I kind of consider a noir. Stationed West. Yeah, I mean, because it shows how the movement crossed genres at that time. You know, so a war movie could look and feel like a noir, a western, even like a comedy. You know, like Deanna Durbin's Lady on a Train, or The Good Humor Man, or Unfaithfully Yours, or any of these things are like noirish comedies. But then once the movement was over, there was no reason for the films to look like that anymore. So westerns went back to just being westerns again.
Yeah. And this one is from Mike. Does it make you sad how San Francisco has changed so very much in the last 20 years?
I'm an old guy. How about the last 45 years? Last 45 years. Yes and no. I mean, I made my peace with it. Everything is going to change. The world changes. San Francisco culturally is totally different, but you will never defeat San Francisco's geography.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what makes the city so special is the geography, and that's not going to change, right?
Yeah.
So that aspect of it, when this phase is over, the city will still be there, and the city will still be this fabulous place that it always has been. But I know what Mike is referring to. I kind of barely recognize my hometown anymore, and so I don't like. This may surprise people. I don't like to be nostalgic. That doesn't interest me. I don't want to be like Burt Lancaster in Atlantic City, you know,
Yeah.
The Atlantic. Now there was an ocean. You know, I mean, I don't want to do that every time I walk on a San Francisco street, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel that way all the time, because it's like, oh, this used to be great. This used to be great. Oh my God, what happened to this place? Hey, there she is.
Yeah.
Guest star. Tonight's guest star.
You gonna say hello, Charlotte? No, she's gonna look off the other way.
I love that. Now she's just like, I'm here. You have to deal with me, but I'm not paying any attention to you. That's very good. Okay.
Yeah, and I think too, like with San Francisco, I mean, I think it's kind of what's interesting about living in the Tenderloin is, one, it's still terrible here, but also we just have like a lot of like different people from different countries that come in to the neighborhood. So, you know, at one point in the history of the neighborhood, like a lot of Vietnamese came in, and now a lot of people from Southeast Asia, from like Pakistan in that area are here. So it's kind of interesting because I think it changes, at least in this neighborhood, in an interesting way. And but it did crack me up. Have you ever read the novel Man in the High Castle?
No.
Okay, so it's this alternate reality where the Germans and the Japanese won the war, and Japan is in charge of San Francisco. So all the stuff in San Francisco's changed, except the Tenderloin is still a bad neighborhood. And I literally like burst out laughing when I got to the part where they went to the Tenderloin. I thought, not even the Axis can handle the Tenderloin. It'll never change.
That's pretty class. But you know, same as it ever was. I mean, that's the history of San Francisco, right? I mean, it's always been, when the Irish were in the Mission before the Hispanic, it became a Hispanic neighborhood, and the Jews were all in the Fillmore before World War II, and when it became an African American neighborhood, it's just always been that way. But there was always a thriving arts culture. That was what defined San Francisco, and you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, well, it's just everyone's so priced out.
Yes, but when everything bottoms out and the next bust comes, the next full-on bust comes, and everything, and the bad neighborhoods are always revived by artists.
Yeah.
right? Because they don't make money, so they have to go where it's the cheapest rent, and then they do interesting things to make the neighborhoods vital and alive, and that's what always happens. So it will happen again.
Yeah.
You know, I may not be here to see it, but it will happen again.
Well, rents are down 20% at this point, which is the first time in a very long time here. Robin Friedman asks, why didn't the film Kiss Me Deadly make your list of the 25 best film noirs? Regards. I'm sorry I won't be seeing you in DC Film Noir Festival this month. I hope next year. So we should also probably talk about DC.
Yes, we will. But I'll tell you why it didn't make my list of the 25 best film noirs, because I don't have a list of the best 25 film noirs. That list clearly says it's a personal, this is on my website.
Yeah.
It's a personal list of 25 films that for me personally will stand the test of time. These are 25 films that I can watch over and over and over again. Nowhere in that do I say these are the best film noirs, right? I just, recently people have been asking me, like, you know, if you had to tell someone what the definitive film noir was, what would you say? And I always say Double Indemnity and Out of the Past for the 40s, but for the 50s, it would be Kiss Me Deadly, right? But calling it the definitive film noir and calling it a personal favorite are not necessarily the same thing. So, you know, that's the reason why I have never compiled a list of the best, because my brain doesn't actually function that way. I have no problem saying these are my favorites. Yeah. But I don't necessarily, I know that some of my favorites are far from being best, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree, because somebody kind of asked me, you know, what films he should watch, and then I wound up doing a column of like my 13 favorite, because I couldn't do 10. I wound up doing 13, but they were really my favorites. Like I wasn't really doing them so much from a perspective. It was kind of, I mean, there was some stuff that was really like, you know, classic noir in the sense of must-sees, but a lot of it was just things that I just personally really fell in love with when I saw them, you know, and that of course has changed over time the more I watch, but there's just like a lot of things that I just think are just like, I could watch them over and over and over again, and they're not necessarily like what people would consider like the greatest.
Yeah, I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. And quite honestly, Kiss Me Deadly is not a film that I watch over and over and over again. There's something about it. You know, there are a lot of films that are great movies, and I watch them and I say, man, I'm not going to watch this movie again for a few years. Yeah. You know, because it just does something to you chemically. Yeah. That is like, I don't want to go there again. You know, I read somebody, but it's different for everybody. Yeah. You know, I'm the movie Pale Flower, the Japanese film. I love that movie. I could watch that movie endlessly. And I read a review the other day where the guy was saying, you know, it was interesting, but this is a one and done. I'll never watch this movie again. Yeah. Like, okay, whatever. It didn't work for him. That movie, I could watch it every week. Yeah. You know? So it's just a personal thing.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and that's kind of why I think it was good that you didn't specify in your list that it was the best.
No, because I think I made my point. I don't really want to do that list. And I knew that people were going to construe it as Eddie thinks this is, you know, the best, you know. And look, I tell people all the time, In a Lonely Place is my favorite movie. Do I think it's the best film noir ever made? Absolutely not, because I mean, Double Indemnity has to be considered before In a Lonely Place. It's definitive film noir. It created the whole movement almost single-handedly. Yeah. So, you know, but which movie do I want to watch 50 times? Weirdly, I would watch In a Lonely Place 50 times, and probably Double Indemnity 49.
Yeah, no, I mean, my favorite film is The Maltese Falcon. I mean, I love that movie. I think it's perfect. And I never get tired of watching it. But like we said before, and I really agree with you, if I was going to get, one person to watch one film noir and understand the genre, it would be Double Indemnity.
Yes, because it's a noir. See, if
Yeah.
they watch The Maltese Falcon, it's good. That's a detective story.
Yeah.
It's not a definitive noir. It certainly set things up for
Right.
noir, but it is not a definitive film noir. So.
Okay, so I did not catch the name for this one. So unknown person, sorry. Last night I rewatched He Walked by Night with one of the detectives played by Lawrence Tierney's brother, Scott Brady. Will you tell the story of chaperoning Lawrence Tierney at a film noir festival?
No.
It's on his website. Just so
No.
you guys know, it's on his website.
It's on the website. It is on the website.
Which is eddiemuller.com?
eddiemuller.com. And if you go to the section called Side Bets, there is a story called The Big Leak, My Night with the Noir Monster.
Yeah.
And the story, I mean, I told that story, Anne, so many times for so many years that I just had to finally just write it as a short story so that I could retire it it became like a dog and pony show, where people would say, Eddie, tell the Lawrence Tierney story.
Yeah.
And it was like, whatever. So I wrote it, and now you can read it online. So I hope you will make that effort. No offense, but we would be here for 30 minutes because I cannot tell that story briefly. There is no human way I can tell that story.
Yeah, I actually laughed when I saw the question come in, because my first thought was, there's no way he's going to do that.
It has to be its own installment of Ask Eddie to tell, if I'm going to do that. But.
Okay. And this is from Doug. Eddie, what's your opinion of Don Siegels' 1964 version of The Killers?
Doug, you will hear it shortly because it will be showing on Noir Alley on TCM in January.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
showing it, and I'm excited because I think today I made a deal to have a special guest with the film. And before everybody gets all excited and thinks it's Angie Dickinson, it's not Angie Dickinson. It's another star in the film who actually comes to all the Noir Alley shows in LA. So I'm gonna be mysterious. I'm not gonna. Some of the people watching know exactly who I'm talking about, but that'll be cool. I like the film. I like the film very much. It's Lee Marvin.
Yeah.
And Ronald Reagan's the villain, and Angie Dickinson is in it, and John Cassavetes is in it, and it's Don Siegel. Come on, it's really good.
I think it's a great film, and I love Ronald Reagan in that film so much. I love his performance.
Yeah, it's great. He's the villain.
Yeah, and he's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, because that, and then the other thing that I really liked him in was Dark Victory, where he plays sort of a drunk playboy who may or may not be gay. You're not quite sure. So this one is from Robert from Washington, D.C. Many noir films feature bars and clubs, from classy to seedy, and sometimes with interesting decor. Can you list a few that you would like to get a drink in?
Oh boy. Now I'm thinking of the best clubs in noir. I like the. I'm going to try to remember the name of the club in I Walk Alone. Kirk Douglas owns it. I tend to remember all of these based on who owned them, right? So it was like Kirk Douglas owned that the Regent Club. It was called the Regent Club in I Walk Alone. That was a good one. There's also the place that Morris Karnofsky owns in Dead Reckoning. I think it's called the Rendezvous or something like that. But my speed, absolutely without question, is the Roundup in Crisscross. Slim Dundee's Roundup, because it is one of the most distinctive interiors in all of noir, right? It has that entrance from the street with that beautiful LA sunlight, and Lancaster walks in, and there's the bar there, which is like headquarters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the best. And then it just erupts into this like 2 or 3 tiered nightclub with a dance floor, and the Isai Morales and his rumba band playing. And then there's a weird back room off to the side, and I just love the layout of that place. So that's my absolute favorite. I that's more divey Bunker Hill LA kind of thing that I go for, more than like a big ritzy with gambling, like Balance Club in Gilda,
Right.
You're not going to find me in that place. You're going to find me in Slim Dundee's Roundup on Bunker Hill.
Yes, and of course I would be there because Dan Duryea owns it.
Right, there you go. I'd be there because Percy Hilton is the bartender.
Yeah. God, I forgot that. That's right. It's the perfect bar.
There you go. Are you a checker? Are you a checker?
Sorry. Okay.
Crack me up, man. That was good.
Oh, that was good. Okay, here's one last question to close out the session. And this is from Chuck. Eddie, let's go back in time, way back, to the month before the very first Noir City, when we all read the article in the print edition of the San Francisco Chronicle to see the lineup of movies. This is a what if. What if the festival had been a flop? Nobody came, or at least not that many. And there was no year 2 at all. You were still handsome and clever, but hundreds of us were not paying for your cleverness.
my cleverness? Okay, that's it.
Cleverness. That was me. That was me making a Freudian slip.
Okay, very good. I'll forgive you.
What would you do for a living? What would have been your path? Where would you be now?
Okay, I that's got to be Chuck Tegsey. Yeah,
it is,
because that has all the earmarks of a Chuck question. That is the easiest question that I've gotten on this whole thing since we've been doing this. I would be writing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do. I mean, that's how I self-identify. Whenever I have to fill in a form for the government or something and it says occupation, I say writer, which is what I do, and I'm not complaining in the least about how things developed, but the success of these festivals and the creation of the foundation and all that stuff, none of that was planned, none of that was expected. So in between 1998 and 2002, right, I had published 5 books. And in the subsequent 20 years, I haven't published 5 books, right? So that's what I would be doing. Life throws you a curveball, and it threw me one, and I hit it. What can I say? And, but I have every expectation that I will keep writing, and if all this stuff bottoms out, and if there are no more movie theaters and all that kind of stuff, I'm perfectly happy just sitting at home writing. That's what I do. Hey, Ann, before we sign off, you had mentioned about Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So yes, last time we spoke, I didn't have the dates.
Yeah.
Or to be more truthful, I didn't remember the dates.
Yeah.
It starts November 13th. November 13th to, I believe, the 29th, either the 26th or the 29th, is when that festival will be happening online. right? And we are in the midst of setting the whole thing up. I'm very, very pleased that we already have confirmed 17 movies. We'll probably have a 20 film slate. We're waiting, of course, for the American titles. Those are the only ones that haven't been confirmed. It dovetails with a question from the previous session, right? About like the rights issue and all that kind of stuff, ownership and everything. So I hold out hope. I'm optimistic that we'll get those movies too, because there's a few American films that are celebrating their 75th anniversary this year, and we would like to show those. One of them is Detour that we will be showing, and that one's been confirmed, so I can say that. But I'm very excited about the whole thing, and people need to understand those dates are when the films become available for streaming, and then the end date is when that access is no more. Right?
So all the films will be available during that period.
The films will be available for streaming during that period. That's how this stuff is going to work, right? So no showtimes, no double bills, none of that stuff. But you can buy a pass that gives you unlimited access to everything. And we would love for people to do that, because even if you don't watch all 20 movies, you're donating, you know, to the foundation and to our efforts and everything. So it's really advisable to buy. I mean, I would advise people to buy the pass, but you can just buy individual movies. Obviously, if you've seen some of the films already and don't want to see them again, then you can just buy them, and they are available to you to stream from the 13th to the 29th of November.
Okay, and is there a geographic restriction at all, or that just, I mean, within the U.S.?
We're working all that out. I mean, it depends on the distributors that are giving us the okay. So in some cases, there will be a geographic limitation. I know this ticks some people off. We go through this with TCM all the time, where they have, you know, I choose to show a film, and we can only show it in the United States. We can't show it in Canada. And so people in Canada who get TCM are like, why can't we see the movie? And it's like, well, this movie, the terms are, you can only show it in the contiguous United States, you know? But this is an international festival by and large. And so the distributors want people to see these movies, right? I mean, they're happy that we're doing it. So they're not putting the same kind of limitations on the screening, or the screenings. Got to get my head around it. They're not screenings, they're streamings.
Streaming.
So anyway, it should be fun. And also it's nice because where nothing beats having a live audience. And, you know, when we bring in guests, when we bring in Fernando Pena from Argentina, or my friend Jin Hyung Cho, who came to talk about The Housemaid and Black Hair in San Francisco.
That was great.
You know, we can do that, but we just do it like we're doing this.
Yeah.
And what can I say? It doesn't have quite the gravitas and the buzz and the fabulousness, but it sure costs a lot less money.
Yes, it does. So are all, excuse me, are all the films going to have an introduction?
Yes. Yep. And it will be mostly me, but there are other folks involved as well. You know, I think Foster Hirsch is going to introduce a movie here and there, and Imogen Smith will be hosting a few things. And Alan, I'm hoping that we get a couple of things that we really want that are right in Alan's wheelhouse. So that's Alan Rohde I'm speaking of. So I'm eager. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. It'll be nice for people, you know, if you didn't get to see everything at North City in January here in San Francisco, or if you were in Hollywood where we kind of had to end halfway through.
Yeah, we got halfway through it.
Yeah, so give everybody a chance to see the films that they missed, and of course, the folks that we didn't get to see at all this year, too. So, you know, Austin and Chicago and Detroit,
Yeah.
Boston. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, you know, we'll see how this goes, but this is our, you know, the first time we're doing this, and if it works out well, I anticipate that this is what's going to happen in January. You know, for the Noir City Festival that would normally be at the Castro will be an online version of that. I just don't see the possibility of getting back in a theater. I mean, I think I've explained this to people before, but as long as there are spatial limitations in the venue, it is impossible for us to make it work economically.
Yeah.
Because the cost of these venues, the cost of my traveling to these venues, the cost of doing all this stuff live doesn't make sense if you can only fill every, you know, fourth or fifth or sixth seat in the venue. It's just, you know, it just doesn't work. So I'm completely hopeful that all this will resolve itself eventually and we'll resume the festivals. But this is an interesting alternative in the meantime.
Yeah, and so, and I'm glad. I mean, it was very, very exciting for me to hear that we were doing DC. I mean, that put us. I was so happy. I was just so happy we're having another one. I just was really delighted because I miss, because even though I don't attend all the festivals, of course, I only go to San Francisco Festival, but you know, I have so much interaction with people online across social media when we're having them.
But Ann, you are integral to every festival because, as you know, as the director of communications, you're responsible for all the social media outreach and everything for all these festivals. So you are involved in all of them, whether you attend or not. And I just want to say that you know, I really credit the folks at AFI Silver in Silver Spring, Maryland, not technically DC, but close enough. Especially Todd Hitchcock, who's the programmer there, and he's really great. And he really took the initiative, you know, of kind of poking me in the butt and saying, you know, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And it is coming together quite rapidly now. So I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, and I always really like Todd because when the festivals are going on, Todd does a lot of social media also on his personal account for it. Yeah, which is really awesome.
Yeah, Todd is a great guy. He really he knows what he's doing, and you know, he's a great cinephile, and we have this terrific relationship. So I'm very happy that we're doing this with them.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just so excited just that we're doing it, and you know, and it's also such a, you know, a great benefit for us at Film Noir Foundation for our own North City Festival in January to be able to have this kind of experience, frankly, you know, at another venue first is also kind of, it's nice.
I agree. Exactly. So I didn't have to figure all this out cold on my own in January, you know.
So we're very grateful.
Indeed we are. Okay, did we get through everything?
We got through all the questions.
Fantastic. Okay. But this has really been fun, and that was some very nice Japanese whiskey that I was drinking.
Hi, I was drinking water.
But now I'm going to go make dinner because all day long I've been writing,
Yeah.
and making pasta sauce, making a beautiful tomato sauce thing today that I'm now going to go eat. So I'm excited about that as well.
Okay.
So Anne, this was a lot of fun. It's always a pleasure. I loved seeing somebody write in. I saw somebody who said that they were really enjoying the talks because they loved your laugh.
I saw that on Twitter. I was so surprised.
Look at you. Look at how cute you look when you're laughing. It's great.
I've literally been to a movie, and then this happened to me twice when I was in Seattle. The next day, someone said to me, "Oh, were you at the movies last night?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Yeah, I was in the back. I could hear you laughing."
So your laugh is legendary. That's good.
It really is. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay. Well, I look forward to doing this again next month.
Yeah.
I see that people are already submitting questions, so it's fun. This is like a regular gig.
It is. It's great.
And I have to say, it's funny because I even know that some of the people from TCM watch, and it's like I can tell they don't know what to make of it because I'm so much more informal.
Yeah.
Than when I'm on air. Like, I didn't put makeup on. I didn't do all that stuff. You know, my hair isn't quite, there. Look at that. It's like it's sticking up. So they're like, oh, well, that's interesting, Eddie, and it's like, hey, I'm on my own time, I'm on my own time. So, it's nice to keep a balance,
Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of fun to do something more off the cuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I just want to end by thanking everybody for I'm amazed that people keep coming up with really great questions. And I always look forward to what people come up with, what interests them and what the passions are and all that. And it's great. I mean, we have the greatest, I don't even know what to call them. They're not, the greatest, supporters, patrons.
Yeah, patrons.
Noir fans. That's what they are. That's what we are. Right?
Yeah, and I'd also like to thank everybody that we have some really nice comments back and forth when we live stream, and I just want to thank everybody who does that, and just everybody who interacts with us on our social media pages. It actually makes it like enjoyable as work for me to be able to interact with people. So just want to say that.
Okay, great. I look forward to doing it next time.
Okay, we'll see you in November. Have a good night.
Say good night to Charlotte for me.
Good night, Charlotte.
Okay, see you next time, man.
Okay, bye.